Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Joe Taylor. This morning, another in the ongoing series of programs presented by the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning. The program, through the Northwest Institute of Research, oversees a grant from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Education. The goal of the program is to improve the outcomes for young children as they prepare for school. John Poza from the Pennsylvania Key is the host of the program and is with us throughout the series. John, who's on the line this morning?
Well, good morning, Joe. This morning we have Betsy Bort, who is the Vice President of Commercial Lending for ERIEBANK in Erie, PA. Betsy is responsible for developing, managing, and enhancing business relationships in the community. She specializes in business startup and acquisition lending guaranteed by the Small Business Administration, and also acting as a women's business advocate. She's also served on the Pennsylvania Early Learning Investment Commission since 2010. Welcome, Betsy.
Thank you, John.
And of course, your service on the Early Learning Investment Commission is one of the main reasons why we wanted to have you on the program today. We, in a previous program, had talked with Nick Scott Enterprises in Erie, about his involvement on the commission, and we wanted to ask you the same question. How did you get involved in the Early Learning Investment Commission initially?
Well, John, as you'd mentioned, the commission is a group of about 75 business leaders appointed by the governor who advocate in support of quality early learning programs as workforce and economic development strategy. And, through being on the commission, we've learned that since 90% of the brain is developed by age 5, members of our commission know that we have to reach these children, especially at-risk kids, before they reach kindergarten. I've always been very passionate about and very involved with organizations that work with women and children. It was back in 2007 when I joined the board of Early Connections that I truly realized the importance of and the difference in a high-quality early learning center. At that time, it also opened my eyes to what a true quality center looks like and the impact and effect it has on our young children as well as our future workforce. So when I was asked to serve on the commission in 2010, I jumped at the chance to hopefully make a difference and to spread the message of the importance of early education to the business leaders that I deal with on a daily basis. In my role as a commercial lender at ERIEBANK, I have the opportunity to work with many business owners. One of the biggest problems that these business owners face is the lack of a skilled workforce. Through my work on the commission, I've been able to educate the business community and a lot of my customers to the importance of a quality early education and how it ties in with their future workers, something that they're all truly amazed about and don't realize the connection starts that young.
Well, that's obviously extremely important. And one of the things that we may want to address, and maybe this is something that you find even in your own experience at ERIEBANK, is the difference in the skills of folks that are, come on board in their employment, and a lot of those being soft skills that maybe are developed early on in early childhood. And talk a little bit about the difference in preparation for a child, not only for school, but success in life when they have that quality early education to prepare them.
Well, the statistics show that, by getting that quality start, and when I say quality early start, I mean, prior to kindergarten. So many people think if they have their child ready for kindergarten, that's really what they need. They need to start, those first 3 years are so critical to development. And, when we talk about skilled workforce and how it connects to that, up until just a few years ago, people thought that if you took a high school student that maybe was struggling and tried to work with them, you could get them on board for the workforce. Now we know that that's almost wasted dollars. We have to start prior to kindergarten, reading to infants, talking to them, making them more aware. There's so many statistics about children that come out of households with a middle to highly educated family. The number of words that they know by the time they enter kindergarten they're so far advanced from kids that don't have that good quality start.
One of the problems we have in our part of the country is the fact that with the loss of heavy industry and changing technology, there is no longer an employment path for especially young men who don't go on to college, don't go into the military. They like skills, especially math skills, that match the requirements of new industrial technology. How does early childhood learning today play into a role in addressing this problem down the road in the future?
Well, that's all part of the equation is getting these kids early and getting them prepared and ready. Whether they're going into a workforce or whether they're going into the military, we realize that we have to work with them early, get their soft skills up to par, as well as their technical, their math skills. So many programs around the country, and in Pennsylvania especially, are addressing STEM skills and how to get these kids early and make sure we're focusing on the proper parts of their education.
And the other thing, too, about the quality in childcare and the cost of that, of course, there are those who are working adults who have children. And although there's the Child Care Works program, which is the subsidy program that provides funding to be able to have an adult work full-time and yet provide funding to put their child in a quality preschool or child care environment, there are many folks who are just above that qualification line in terms of their income qualifying for Child Care Works, but yet still find it hard to be able to afford child care. And sometimes scholarships are provided by that employee's business, employer, through the Educational Improvement Tax Credit. And a lot of times that can provide the difference to make it affordable so that it benefits the adult and the child in the long run. Is that something that you have gotten involved with?
We have. Here in Erie, we have started the Erie's Future Fund, which I know Nick has probably talked a little bit about too. Erie's Future Fund is a scholarship program for families that can't afford to send their kids to quality early learning. But, companies are also starting to get on board with this. And I think the more we as commission members are out talking to the business community, the more assistance companies are going to offer. There's proven statistics that when, there's a child in a quality early learning center, of course it's not only benefiting the child, but it's benefiting the parents. 65% of children under the age 6 have all of their available parents in the workforce. This means that these children are somewhere other than with their parents, so we're hoping they're in a quality center. By that happening, it also gives the parents the peace of mind they need in order to be able to perform their jobs well and help businesses be successful. And just to take off on that a little bit, in 1998, employee absences due to child care breakdown costs cost U.S. businesses approximately $3 billion. So that's really, when we talk to companies about this, I'm finding more and more businesses are being proactive to help their employees get their kids into quality care, quality early learning, because it's then helping them in their company.
Right, and then I use that example in a previous program as well. Is when an employee does not have adequate child care. Often you'll find increased rates of absenteeism because there's no child care for their child that day, and it prevents them from actually going to work, as well as the fact that you may have an employee at work, but you're not sure about the care that child is receiving for that day. It may contribute a little bit towards the morale issue and productivity as well. In terms of the economic benefits, in terms of our investment in quality early learning, Pennsylvania has a track record there, but it's maybe not where we want to see our state in the long run when compared with the investment that other states have made in quality early learning. What can we do as not only within our local communities, but on a statewide level, in your opinion, to help improve that situation?
Well, I think, Pennsylvania is far ahead of a lot of states. The Governor's Commission, we're very focused on not only making our business communities aware, but also, talking to our politicians and trying to raise more funds all the time. So Pennsylvania really has a good plan. The Erie's Future Fund was kind of a first for Pennsylvania, starting the scholarship program. So we've got a really good jump on it. How we've compared to other states across the nation, I can't speak as much, but I know that Pennsylvania is one of the leaders, and we're looked at very closely because of some of the initiatives that we've taken.
In a statistic that I saw, in researching for the program, Pennsylvania was ranking 30th out of 50 states in terms of early childhood learning, or enrollment rather, and hopefully that is moving up.
It is.
But also, the United States apparently is 28th out of 38, I guess, developed nations in a percentage of 4-year-olds enrolled in early childhood learning. We were even behind countries like Mexico. Why would that be? That's just mind-boggling.
It's very sad, and you're correct. We rank 28th out of 38 industrialized countries for the share of 4-year-olds enrolled in quality early education programs. So, we've got a long way to go in compared to other countries. Just a few examples. France has achieved nearly universal access to preschool education. So nearly 100% of their 3 to 6-year-olds attend centers, which are part of the national education system. Japan, same thing. They maintain quality standards with a nationwide curriculum for both child care centers that enroll children from birth to age 3, and then for kindergartners that kindergartens that enroll children from ages 3 to 5. Other countries too. The Canadian province of Quebec has expanded access by focusing on affordability. All families have access to child care for $7 a day or less, depending on their income.
Wow.
So think about that, $7 a day compared to what we know people are paying here in our country. New Zealand has recognized the importance, and in doing so, they're paying their educators, their early educators, salaries that are comparable to primary and secondary school teachers. That's always been an issue. The people that are dealing with our earliest, most vulnerable children, where they have the opportunity to learn the most, typically are getting paid the less. So, so many other countries are figuring it out, and that's one thing we're really lacking on. And then, so we talk about early education, and then we talk about teens. Teenagers in the U.S. slipped from 25th to 31st in math since 2009, and from 20th to 24th in science, and from 11th to 21st in reading. So, I guess, I'm kind of contradicting myself. I'm saying that Pennsylvania is doing such a great job, and we are, but there's just so much room for improvement. Right.
I think the issue, what we really mean to emphasize, is access. That's the key word, is access, because we are doing a fairly good job in Pennsylvania with our programming, but there are still pockets within a state like Pennsylvania, which can be very rural, and there are still areas where families do not have access to that quality preschool. So, even in terms of access, we're behind neighboring states like West Virginia, Maryland, New York, and New Jersey. So that's the issue. And, we talk about universal access. That's what you hear from the federal government and from the Obama administration. And that's what at least many legislators and our congressional people are pushing for. And the question is whether that can be something that can be provided, how it can be provided in terms of something that will be, benefits everyone and in a cost beneficial way. But, I'm looking at some research here, and close to 65% of our young people will stay right here in Pennsylvania and become part of our future workforce. So, we hear about people leaving Pennsylvania, but still 65% choose to stay. So, the real question is, if we want to remain economically competitive, our state must invest accordingly, and at least in terms of providing access, so making sure that it's there for all families.
That's correct. Once again, we're well on our way, but there is so much work to be done. And I think the more visibility the commission members have, and the more attention we get from our legislators, the more we're going to be able to advance.
I was just wondering how we could provide greater access. What is being considered? Would we be talking about, a situation where transportation was provided? How would this possibly be handled? John, I'm throwing this out to you and Betsy both.
Right.
I'll jump in there first, and then
Okay.
I'll let Betsy talk. Let's from the standpoint of Head Start and the early Head Start programs. There are still communities and counties in the more rural areas where they don't have those programs. So, or if in some counties they have the programs, or are families that, or the Head Start doesn't have the funding to provide the transportation to transport those children from their homes to the Head Start's site. So that's where a lot of the access comes in, as well as expanding Head Start. And of course, I think most of this country is a firm believer in Head Start. We know the success that it's had, but that's part of it. And of course, expanding our pre-K counts programs for the quality preschool program that's funded through the state. And Betsy, if you want to jump in a little bit and give your 2 cents as well.
Sure. Here in Erie, with the help of the Erie's Future Fund that we developed, the scholarship program, what that's doing is we're providing transportation to a center of the family's choice. Although, with the Keystone Stars, it needs to be at least a 3-star program.
Right.
What this is doing, though, is it's kind of incenting a lot of the programs out there that weren't up to par to get up to par, so that they're able to get more business and receive the scholarship funds. So we're finding that, especially in outlying communities, scholarship programs such as Erie's Future Fund are encouraging centers to kind of up their game. So that's a good thing. It's expanding the reach further out into the rural areas, and it's bringing a lot of centers that weren't up to standards.
A lot of what we talk about on these programs are the economic repercussions of not having an educated workforce, 15, 20 years down the road. How would a multi-generational undereducated or underemployed workforce, especially of men, affect the very fabric of our society over a period of time if we're basically in the same situation we are right now, and maybe even worse, 20 years down the road?
Yeah. Well, we can't afford to stay in the same situation. As we talked, our world's becoming more complex, and our country's becoming more complex. We talked about STEM and STEM jobs that are going to become so much more important. In the next 10 years, STEM jobs will grow by 17% compared to 9.8% for all other occupations. So that means in all occupations there are 3.6 people for every one job. However, in STEM, currently there's only one person for every 1.9 jobs. And when we talk about STEM jobs, they're the more highly educated, they're good jobs. Median salary for an engineering job is $91,000 per year. So we need to focus on getting our young people up to standards, getting them versed well in STEM education, so that they can stay here and lead our country.
And just so folks know, that STEM principles are actually introduced on the preschool level. I know how that may be hard for a lot of listeners to believe. The actual principles of problem solving and working with blocks and counting, those are all parts of STEM. And children learn that at a young age, and those principles are applied. The younger that they are applied, the more adaptable they're going to be, and the more prepared they'll be when they actually start school. But let's get back to the budget. Obviously this has been a long-standing impasse in Pennsylvania, but we are encouraged with what at least the governor has reached across the aisle in terms of funding for early childhood education, which seems to be a bipartisan agreement. Where do you see the future in terms of the state's commitment to early childhood on the state level?
Well, Governor Wolf has definitely made the commitment, and we know that he's on board. Of course, it's at this point in time with the budget negotiations at a standstill. We're kind of caught. We're hoping that they can come to an agreement somewhere in the middle of what he's presented and what we currently have. We can't afford to not fund our early education system. And I know Governor Wolf is aware of that. We need to make sure everyone else is. So we're really kind of in a catch-22, and the whole the budget impasse is affecting so many of our small agencies around the state that are taking care of our kids. It's imperative that we get the budget settled, get more money for early education.
There is such a. I'm sorry, John. Go on. It's your program.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, Betsy, I know you're a leading women's business advocate. You're very well known in the Erie area. And women play such an important role, not only in starting their own businesses, but in the workforce in terms of their success. And which really, women play such a major role in early childhood development. And I just wanted you, from a personal perspective, if you can kind of comment on what you've experienced, and especially with some of the employees, in terms of how critical that quality early child care has been for the employees, even at the bank.
Well, John, you're right. Women get it, I think, a little more than men do in a lot of cases, because they're typically the primary caregiver for their kids.
Right.
And a lot of the women that I deal with that own their own company, that's one more ball that they're juggling. And they understand, the difficulties of making sure that their child is in a quality center while they're trying to run their business and run their household and everything else. I find it interesting when I'm talking to people. Women, as I said, they kind of get it. The men are the ones that are more shocked by the statistics and shocked by how that early learning affects our workforce. Companies here at the bank, we are very supportive of all of our employees that have children, that they're trying to juggle schedules, and we're very flexible about them attending sporting events, attending school meetings, being home with a child when they're sick. So I think a lot of companies are becoming more flexible. A lot of companies have, in-house child care, which is wonderful. So we're coming around the corner. We really are. It's just a matter of awareness and making people more aware.
I was going to ask, in our political environment right now, there's just such a strain of being anti-government. How do you prove to people who don't want the government doing anything that costs money that this is a wise investment, not only for today, but especially for the future, and overcome, the anti-government animosity toward any kind of spending? Throwing money at things is what they call it.
Right. That's a very good question. When we started presenting here in Erie, at least probably 4 or 5 years ago, we started having business-focused breakfasts and lunches, myself as well as the other commission members, and inviting business community, people that we knew and dealt with that maybe weren't aware of the importance of early education. And in the beginning, that's exactly the pushback we got. Do we really want to give money to this? Can you show us that it makes a difference? And so there are studies out there that show the importance and the difference, in our children when they're coming out of school. That started with a good beginning. The Erie's Future Fund, we're really tracking and focusing, and we're going to be tracking these kids ongoing, their grade levels, as opposed to kids that did not get the good start. So I think having the proven statistics is what's going to give people the incentive to support more. And I think, here at least, Nick, myself, and Mike Plazzoni have talked enough and presented enough, and we're in constant contact with the business community. They're getting it. They're starting to really listen to what we say, and they understand the importance.
Yeah, we've had Mike on a program previously, and of course Nick, and I was glad to finally get you on our program today, Betsy. Our time has really run short, but I really want to thank you so much for being on the program, and keep up the good fight, advocating for quality early childhood education, and hopefully we can have you on the program again.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to share a little bit of what we do and what is so important to all of us.
And that's our program for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks at this same time. In the meantime, you can go online to learn more at papromiseforchildren.com. For John Posa and the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning, I'm Joe Taylor. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.